What sources do you deploy in order to find inspiration for your client's wedding design? Hello, my friends, and welcome back. My name is Andrea Eppolito, and we are here today celebrating life, luxury, and above all else, love. If you are new to the channel, if you are returning, I'm thrilled that you're here. We come together celebrating weddings, events, lifestyle, and everything that you need to live more beautifully. And it's one of the reasons that I really love the wording of this question. If you listen, they didn't say, how do you design? They didn't say, what are the steps that you take to design? This was specifically asking, what sources do you use? Where do you go to find the inspiration that you then use in the design? And I think it's relative for creatives in so many spaces. It's relative in wedding planning, it's relative in event design, it's relative in designing your house and interior decorating. So we're going to jump right into answering this. Where do you start when you're looking for inspiration for a wedding design? You start with the source. You start with your clients. Your client is your North Star. Everything flows from the client and the couple, and everything flows back to the couple. Now, this does not mean that you just ask them, what do you want for your wedding, and expect them to give you the information you need. This is a much deeper dive than that. A lot of times, we as wedding planners or florists or decorators, we will go to our clients and say, tell me what you want. And the truth is, if the client really knew, if the client had the language, if they understood what was available to them, then they really wouldn't need us. Our job is to make a connection with our clients. It's to really get to know them. It's to see them, not as my next wedding, but to see them as an individual couple. It's about looking at somebody and understanding who they are, how they see the world, how they move through the world. I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again. About 6 or 7 years ago, a couple came to me and they said, we love your work. We really want to do this. And these are our colors. And I was like, great, cool. Where'd we get the colors from? And they said, well, he's a professional NBA player, and these colors over the course of our relationship have been tied either to the high school where we met, where he played college ball, the first team, the team he had when they got engaged. It was this kind of colorway about their relationship. And I was like, okay, I can work with that because there's an emotional component. But as we went through the process, as I saw them for who they were as people, I became less and less able to work with and to manipulate the colorway the way that I needed to, because there was this disconnect. And so I said to them about 4 to 5 months into the process, I said, listen, can I just come bring you coffee? Like, I want to just come sit in your house. And when I got there, the entire house was gray. Everything was gray. You had a little bit of black, a little bit of white, but it was all very like shades and tonality. And I looked and I said, I understand now why I can't design to your color, because you don't live in color. You don't embrace color. You don't celebrate your life in color. So I have to ask, like, what made you bring these to me? And they said, well, we looked online, we looked at Pinterest, we looked at blogs, we looked at Instagram, and really, like, we just kept seeing color. And my perspective was, first of all, you can be better than Pinterest. You can be better than Instagram. As a wedding planner, as an event designer, I design for what is next, not for what's now. And I'm not concerned with looking at the internet and saying, this is what the world is showing, let me parrot it back. I'm interested in looking at my couple and saying, what are you telling me about who you are authentically? And then how can I use that? How can I use who you are to create the thing that really makes you feel alive, that makes you feel seen and understood, that your guests walk in and go, of course, this is their wedding. It makes total sense. So I'm going to take you through the step as a planner of what you do for that. The first thing you do is you deeply study your couple, and you look at everything about them, and you really develop and build a profile about who they are, their names, their ages, where they went to school, where they work, what they do for a living, How do they live? If you can visit them in your home, I think it's such a great exercise to see how they choose to live on a daily basis, because then you can take that and you can just elevate it and kind of, punch it up a little bit. But I also think that you need to go have a meal with them, see how they eat, see what they drink, talk to them about pop culture. What movies do they love? What music do they hate? Where do they shop? What do they drive? How do they vacation? And you're going to really just drill down and write and write and write about your couple. And then you're going to take everything you know and you're going to put it up against a list of details. Now, if you don't have a list of details that you can use in your own wedding planning experience, then go ahead, visit my shop. I have one for you there. But you're going to look at the details, and I'm going to give you a very specific example. Let's say you have a couple, and this couple does not cook. They are not in the kitchen. They love to eat out. They love Michelin star restaurants. They love high end. They love fine dining. This is who they are. Everybody knows it. So now pull that thread to design. And design is not just how something looks, it's how it feels, it's how it works logistically, it's what it does to your experience. So when you pull this thread and you know that the couple really loves fine dining, you are going to start with a venue, with a caterer, with a team that really focuses on food. And so maybe you have a celebrity chef, maybe you go to a venue that's known for their culinary experience. And when you sit with the chef, first of all, the food becomes part of the experience, it becomes part of the design. But when you're looking at the stuff and you're trying to figure out how is the stuff going to make me feel, if this chef plates and presents beautifully and artistically and in a really modern manner, you're not going to set the table with an overly fussy china pattern. You're not going to be doing something where you have 3 chargers and 3 plates with a different pattern rim. You're not going to include a multicolored patterned napkin, because the food is part of the design. The food is the experience. And so instead, when you're looking at that detail of what am I selecting for the tabletop, you're going to look for a clean piece of china. You're going to look for porcelain. You're going to look for bone. You're going to look for stone or wood, something that is elegant and upscale, but that lets the food do the talking. Now, let's say instead you have a couple that's really super homey and they love crafts and they love pattern and they love color. And for the holidays, they decorate with a bunch of different, throw pillows and blankets and gnomes. And the food needs to be good, but it's not the star of the show. Okay, now we're playing with a different story. Now, when we sit down, we want to evoke things that you may see in their house. We want to bring in things that they love. So here you may do different color chargers. You may do a really beautifully patterned napkin. You may have a menu that is printed and embossed with a foil floral accent, because you're tying everything back. Everything that goes into that room needs to speak directly to your couple. So your couple sets the parameters of all of the decisions that you're going to make, and you start and stop with who they are. Now that's step one. Step two is you do need to have a details plan. You need to know what it is that you're out there looking for. But as creatives, we're sponges. And so you're saying, okay, but where do I look next? If I'm not supposed to look at Pinterest, if I'm not supposed to look at Instagram, if I'm not supposed to look at other weddings for inspiration, where do I go? So again, I design for what's next, not for what's now. And so the first place that I recommend looking is at couture fashion shows. Look at what's coming out of Europe. Look at what's coming out of Asia. Look at what Dior is doing. Look at the set design. Are they showing everything? A lot of times we see really, really white sets, but we do occasionally see something where it's very dark. We occasionally see something where there's a back wall filled with flowers, or that there's a color story that people are doing. Couture is always the leader visually, because what happens is the couture shows those fantastical, beautiful, handcrafted pieces that are telling the designer's story and commenting. They flow down to immediately models, actors, actresses, red carpets, but they also flow down to ready to wear. Once it's in ready to wear, it starts showing up in TV. It starts showing up in movies. It starts showing up more on social media influencers. And that line connects over in a very real way to the next place you're going to look, which is interiors, home interior design, home interior decor. You're going to be looking at, what do restaurants look like today? What kind of materiality are hotels bringing in? What is the lighting? What is the sound? How are the environments being crafted? So if you're looking for the flow of how style impacts and kind of comes into the wedding and event space, if you're looking for inspiration, start with the couture fashion shows. Look at the models, look at the actresses, look at the red carpet, because that's always the newest. And then pay attention to how those colors and how those materials are then showing up in interiors. So, great places to look for this are obviously your Architectural Digest. Obviously, you're going to look at Elle Decor. You're going to look at, I mean, I've got it right here on my desk. You've got the Restoration Hardware catalog. It's a great resource. But after you are looking, you need to take yourself and put yourself in the environment. So when you go to a Restoration Hardware and you sit in that lobby space, you will begin to see it's not cluttered. It's wide. It's open. There's a sense of space. There's a sense of light. There's a sense of airiness. Sit there and say, how do I feel? And is this a feeling I want to create in my client's event? And then you move into the bedroom. And when they have these bedroom setups, you may turn around and say, okay, the lighting is not as cool, it's warmer and it's a little bit dimmer. And the fabrication isn't as slick, it's more sumptuous. It's got a heavier hand and weight to it. How does that make me feel? And do I want to create that feeling for my clients and guests? And you can do this in restaurants, you can do it in hotels. You will feel very different and you will sense different elements if you are sitting in a tapas restaurant. Very, very different experience than if you're sitting in a five dining Michelin star room, which is a very different experience than sitting in a hotel lobby in a metropolitan city. So, constantly putting yourself in environments that have been created by professionals and asking yourself, how do I feel? And what's making me feel this way? You should always be taking notes. You should always be creating your own inspiration bank. This way, when you need something, you say, I have this tool in my kit. I know I can get it and I know I can pull it in for my clients, for my couples. And the last thing that I really recommend that you do is travel. Travel as often, as far, and as wide as you possibly can. Now, there was a time in my life where I wasn't able to travel financially. There was a time in my life where I wasn't able to travel where I wanted to travel because of familial commitments. And that's okay. The point of travel, whether it is to the other side of town or to the other side of the world, is that you take yourself out of your comfort zone. It's that you take yourself out of an environment where you know what to expect and where you can anticipate the next feeling and the next moment. Because even if you're just driving to a new spot across town, you don't know what's going to happen when you walk into that room. You don't know how the space is going to feel. And so you open yourself up. You open yourself up to noticing different things. You open yourself up to being exposed to something that you weren't exposed to earlier today. And all of those pieces, all of those images become a part of you as an artist. They become a part of your subconscious. You will start to integrate them into your own life, into your own home, into your own office. And then when you go back to the beginning and when you're studying your clients, you'll start to pull words, textures, colors, lighting, things that they say will begin to, you'll say, I remember that. I was here and I saw this, and this plays nicely with who they are. But ultimately, if you're looking for the ultimate source of inspiration for your work, you need to look at your clients. And then if you are looking to expand your worldview, which I always think is a great idea because it makes you sharper and more creative as a designer, look at fashion, look at interior decorating and design and travel. I hope this has answered your question today. I love being a part of this community. I love all of the people that come here because we are the makers and creators of dreams come true. And we stand on the sidelines and we make the world a more beautiful place for others. And we need to continue learning from each other. So if you have any topics you would like me to cover, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. Until next time, celebrating life, luxury, and above all else, love. This is Andrea Eppolito, and we'll talk again soon.